Super Smash Bros. Melee is the second entry in the Smash series, and I think it's a pretty massive jump from Smash 64. It did add a whole lot to the series and definitely helped make the gameplay feel a lot more smoother, and it's a fan favorite entry from what I've seen over the years, and I think there's plenty of reasons why. And from what I've seen, it's still played a ton around the world comparatively, which for a game that's basically like over 2 decades old at this point is still pretty amazing. And with that, I think it's a good time to actually get into the video, starting with my first like, that being the gameplay. It did add a few things from the previous game like chargeable smash attacks and side specials. This was something I kind of thought was in Smash 64 growing up because my first Smash game was Brawl, so I thought just Smash 64 had that too, but regardless, it does help just giving you more options while fighting and while also being able to do more damage with the chargeable smash attack. Also does feel a bit smoother in comparison to Smash 64, which is always a good thing. And it's also a bit faster than that entry as well, which isn't a big deal to me, but I know for a ton of others they just prefer the speed that Melee has. The game also looks pretty great, from the character models to the stages to even the trophies. Everything looks really well polished and has a nice style to it, and then it also makes sure all the characters look how the artwork depicted them, at least for the time. I also think the amount of single player content here is pretty great. Everything from Smash 64 came back along with quite a bit more stuff, and quite a bit of them are pretty well playable since a lot of the time you can just try for better times along with doing it with every single cast member. There's event matches, adventure mode, all-star mode, and again the modes from Smash 64. There are quite a bit more as well, but those are some key highlights to me. My favorites definitely have to be the multi-man melee and adventure mode. The former mostly just because it's an endurance test, and the latter because I think it's fun going through the different stages based on the different gaming franchises, at least the ones out in Melee. The character roster I think here is also pretty nice. It had a whole lot of characters that I think needed to be in Smash. It's got characters like Bowser, Ganondorf, Peach, Mewtwo, and a few others I imagine no one saw coming, at least back when the game was released. Mostly characters like Ice Climbers, Roy, Marth, Game & Watch, to name a few. These characters, at least to me, kinda seemed odd since, Game & Watch and Ice Climbers didn't really get a whole lot since, the games were like in the 80s and whatnot, and Roy and Marth didn't get anything in the West at the time, so at least maybe they just, put them in because hey, let's give these guys attention, because I know that the games were like a release, at least Marth was back in Japan, and they were considered cutting them, so at least when they kept them in the West, then they said, hey, well, at least give these guys some attention, right? So that's always good. And the stages here I also really liked, and in comparison to Smash 64, it's a lot more wacky, but at least there are some, I guess, more normal stages here. So my favorite stages definitely have to be the Temple stage, Great Bay, Fountain of Dreams, and a few others. And while this is not my favorite stage gimmick, I can say it was pretty cool to see moving stages, since now you have to deal with more than just your opponents. And I think Melee definitely has a lot going for it. A ton of single player content, more than double the roster from the last game, and it's just insanely fun. And I can understand why this entry is still regarded by the fandom to be the best one so far, despite all the new great stuff the other 3 entries added, those being of course Brawl, Smash 4, and Ultimate. But even with all the stuff that Melee had added, there were still some aspects I thought really weren't the greatest. Like for example, some parts of the roster. What I mean by this is that with the size of the roster, I think it kinda sucks we got 7 clones, and while I don't mind them, and that every game past this has gotten quite a bit of them, and I do kinda like some of the clones more than the original character, the main reason it sucks is just because, there's only 6 new characters, leaving the total roster at 18 if you want to take out the clones. And they're not the worst thing, since again, player entries have more. It just sucks because we don't have a bunch of brand new characters. And then there's some other aspects here and there which kinda suck, like Ganondorf being a clone of Captain Falcon, which kinda doesn't make sense. And I feel like if they spent more time with him, they could have given him a more unique moveset, because I do believe he was one of the last characters that was added, which kind of was weird to me because why wouldn't you add Ganondorf early on, but it is what it is. And I also really don't like how awkward the game can feel in different aspects. Like for example, I feel the gameplay is pretty floaty in the ground and on the air. And while it's improved from Smash 64 in terms of the gameplay, it's just not by much if you ask me. I also feel all if not most of the attacks have like no weight to them, which kind of just makes everything feel like I didn't even do an attack. I also feel like the attacks here are a lot more laggier in comparison to like the other entries, which kind of sucks with all the floatiness and just everything just not feeling right when I do an attack. But in the end, Melee is still a really fun Smash title, and I can 100% understand why it's loved by many. And while I admit some of the issues can be chalked up to me not being used to it after playing the later entries, I can somewhat look past it since, again, it's just still a fun game, and no matter what, it's still Smash at the end of the day. It's going to play how I expected. And while other entries improved on almost everything Melee had to offer, the amount of content and improvements it made over Smash 64 was still amazing considering the short span they had to make the game. And again, the game is amazing and I appreciate everything that's done. But now I want to hear what you guys ended up liking and dislike about Melee, so let me know in the comments below. And before the video ends, of course, I'll go over my likes and dislikes again. Likes: improvement to the gameplay, nice graphics / style, good single player content, nice character roster, and fun stages. Dislikes: odd character roster choices and decisions, and gameplay can feel kind of awkward in some parts. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also check out my Twitter, which is also linked down below.